You have a 99.9% chance of not getting divorced if you pray together.
Welcome back to Fasting Food Faith. I'm Brianne Sims. All right.
I'm Dr. Sam Sims, nurse anesthesiologist.
And today, you'll never guess what we're talking about.
Oh, what do we think? Fasting and prayer?
Yes, the prayer once again. But today, we're talking about
Research.
the
With
scientific
prayer.
research in regards to prayer. And it's fascinating.
Of course it is. One caveat with research with prayer is there's no double-blind study when it comes to prayer, where nobody knows somebody's not praying for them or those things. So like one caveat. But they've done a lot of research on prayer specifically. And one of the things that I think I'm going to start with is I want to talk about prayer as a couple with the divorce rate. So the divorce rate is oftentimes set at about 50%. It kind of depends, where you're at, but sometimes it's 30%, 50%. But let's just say, we'll just go with just the global across the board. Some areas,
like general population,
50%, 30% people get divorced. Yeah. And so, what does prayer as a couple do to that?
How does it change that?
How does it change that number? Okay. So couples that pray together, this is in the Gallup poll, they found, and it's also on the National Association of Marriage Enhancement, their organization, they found that
1 out of every 1,152 couples
will get divorced
if you pray together.
Right.
As a married couple.
Yes. So if it was 1 in 100, that'd be 1%. Less than 0.1%. You have a 99.9% chance of not getting divorced if you pray together every day.
This is every day.
Yeah.
Praying together every day.
Well, there's a couple of trades. Yeah. Yes.
Or just.
Yes. Regular prayer.
Regularly praying.
Regular praying together with your spouse. There's the 99.9% chance you won't get divorced.
That is shocking. You want to divorce-proof your marriage? Pray together.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Oh, and start with that one as a statistic, right?
Amazing.
That
is a huge reason to pray.
Right? They find that they do better with marital therapy. When they have conflicts, they are more likely to be engaged in their church organizations, and they have usually a better support group. So there are advantages of why praying every single day
together with your spouse
helps, yes. And they find that people who regularly pray have a better support system because they're technically more likely to go to church. And they typically are healthier because they usually have a healthier lifestyle.
Well, and that's because they have a better connection with God, so they have a healthier view of themselves and others.
Yeah, so they usually are physically, they can be physically healthier and emotionally healthier.
Imagine that being God's presence makes you physically and emotionally healthier, makes you a more stable person.
Reduces your stress, gives you more meaning and purpose in your life, helps you with coping. Now, one of the things that they've actually researched intercessory prayer, where you pray for someone else to be healed.
Oh, okay.
And so that has had mixed results. And I think there's a reason why that is sometimes it's not in God's will for you to be healed. And I'm going to give myself an example. So I did a 40-day fast. I had a gallstone that I didn't want to have surgery. I wanted to die with my gallbladder, but I didn't want to die because of my gallbladder. You see, I wanted to live my whole life with my gallbladder and be buried with it, but I didn't want it to be killed because of my gallbladder. And that's the interesting thing about the modern medicine that we're in is 100 years ago, my gallbladder would have ruptured and I would have died. The stone was too big to pass through my cystic duct. The cystic duct is about, for me, we measured it was about 0.5 centimeter, and I had a stone that was 2 centimeters and 2 stones that were 1 centimeter. So they weren't coming out. I got pancreatitis, and so I'd been admitted to the ER. And so I was trying to just fast and pray for healing. And that didn't come in the form of a miracle that way. It came in the form of surgery. And I remember praying about it the day before surgery. It's like, God, I really want to be healed from this. And it was like, yes, you are going to be healed from this tomorrow. And so
you have surgery.
But here's the thing. Since I work in the operating room, I've seen people do this surgery all over the country. And the person that was going to do the surgery was the person that I have seen. Now, I've seen some people that are very good at it. Don't get me wrong. But this guy is the best. He's the absolute best at it. I've seen he's the absolute best. And I went to surgery with him. And then I had the crew that I wanted. I had the anesthesia provider that I wanted. I had the doctor I wanted. I had all the things that were going to be in place that I wanted in this one little hospital.
For successful surgery.
Which I wouldn't have had if I had waited till an emergency. Emergency, who knows who you'd get. But unlikely I would have had this whole setup. And so I have the surgery. Brianne and I talk afterwards. And she tells me,
I was sitting in the waiting room and just sitting there just praying, talking to God about stuff. There was like 10 minutes of intense warfare where I was praying on your behalf during the surgery.
Because you told me you looked at your watch.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Because I was like, what is going on in surgery? Is he still in surgery? I wonder if he's, still in the middle of stuff yet. But the Holy Spirit gave a very clear impression to my spirit. Pray over your husband. Pray for his protection. Pray for his healing. Pray for the surgeon. Pray, 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 pray. And so I was just praying, just intercessory prayer on your behalf for about 10 minutes during the surgery. And then suddenly I felt a release of the spirit. And I was like, okay, everything's going to be okay. And then shortly after that, the doctor came out and was like, okay, he did really good. Like, he's going to be in recovery soon, all the things.
Yep. So I woke up. I found out that I had some blood pressure issues during the surgery. Then I recovered and I went home. And then the surgeon, he called me, And again, this is the guy that's the best at this. You know what I mean? And I asked him about it. He was like, is your daddy really bad gallbladder? He said, it didn't come out just like the normal ones that just come out. And he said, and for 10 minutes, I was really struggling. So the intercessory prayer for me to be healed, people prayed for me, did not happen before the surgery, but it did happen during.
Right. And you told him that I was praying for you for that very intense 10 minutes.
Yeah, and he said that was, he loves hearing those stories. That's where he's a believer too. He's like, that's so cool. But that was just profound to me. Like, because Brandon said, I looked at my watch. It was 10 minutes, and then he said that to me later that day. And who knows what would have happened if I hadn't had the one that was the best at it.
God orchestrated all of that. It worked out perfectly, and for me to be in the waiting room praying, and for that specific doctor who's a believer, and just like all these things, like God lined up to take care of you.
Right.
So he did answer our prayers.
He did.
Just not in the way we expected.
No, not the way we expected. And the interesting thing is a lot of people can't have fatty foods after they have their gallbladder. That has not been an issue for me. The one thing that has changed, this is just ironic, I'm just going to just tell you, the one thing that has changed is like, I used to like, jalapenos and like habaneros.
Spicy food.
Spicy, but habaneros, were like this, about as spicy as I get. You know what I mean? And jalapenos were kind of like my go-to. After I had my gallbladder out, it completely switched. Now, habanero is the low end, and like
we like even spicy
ghost
food.
peppers and like scorpion peppers. I go to a Mexican restaurant and I say, give me the spiciest salsa you have.
And not for me.
So I wanted to just kind of give that as caveats. Just because God doesn't intercede on your intercessory prayer that you think he's going to do, maybe he has a plan to do that.
His plans are always the best. So what we think of as this should be the answer, this is what I'm praying for, is not always the best, because God's ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. And he always has good in store for us. So if it doesn't happen exactly the way that you think, that's okay, because that means God has something better planned. So.
That's right. And had I not had the surgery, see, that day we went in there, we actually talked to a young girl, and we talked to her. She asked me, she did some fasting. She was my pre-op nurse that day. And she asked me about fasting, and I was able to witness to her that I had done a 40-day fast. And because of that, she did her own 40-day fast, but in a different way.
Yeah. So it's very interesting places and people that God leads you. Even if it doesn't turn out the way that you thought, he still has a plan in that and a purpose in that.
Yeah. So I would not have had that opportunity.
Or that conversation
about fasting.
Fair.
Yep.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. And I talked to her about doing no negative self-talk fast. And that's what she ended up doing. And again, and encouraged me to do a no negative self-talk fast.
I know there's so much. So there's so much good that still came out of that situation, even though it was a hard situation. God still redeemed that. He still used that for his glory and for our.
And then I ended up sitting next to a guy on a plane right afterwards it's a military veteran who had struggled with suicide the week before. And I was able to talk to him about that because I did a 40-day fast. I didn't get healed the way I thought I was going to get healed. I talked to her. She did one. She told us afterwards. She inspired me. I did that. And then I met somebody else. Like all those little pieces were put together.
God sees the big picture. We could not see all of those pieces that he was putting together.
Right. But until afterwards.
Yeah.
But he just healed me from my gallbladder, all those pieces wouldn't have happened.
Pretty incredible. The stories that he weaves in our lives, just in order to touch other people and bring them closer to himself.
Yep.
Increasing people's faith.
And backed up by the science. The research on prayer shows that it gives you a social support, helps you be more closer to connect to the people in your daily life. It gives you meaning. It gives you purpose. It gives you coping. And it gives you healing in ways that you may not have expected. You're going to get to see the continued fruits of your prayer as you continue through life. Even though they may not have your prayer that you initially wanted to be granted may not have happened. Maybe saying no then was for not only for your benefit, but to bless other people.
It reminds me of the verse in the New Testament when Jesus is talking and he's explaining things to his disciples, and he tells them, you don't see now. You don't understand now what is happening and what I am doing, but you will see. Understanding and revelation will come, and you'll see why I did what I did. I think that's encouragement for all of us who are praying specific prayers to God and asking for specific intervention, and He hears them. Even though we can't see now what He's doing always, someday we will see and understand.
Yep.
And I just love all of that. Science supports what the Bible says about praying and being in the presence of God. It really does transform us physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And it's so important in our walk with God to be in His presence and to communicate with Him daily.
Absolutely. Giving you the biblical foundation and the scientific research for fasting and prayer.
Exactly. Thank you so much for listening and being here with us today on Fasting Food Faith. We hope that you'll share this with your friends and family if it encouraged you today. We'll see you next time.
Go fast and be blessed.